Chapter 16. Huck felt that the silence was more awful for him than talk, so he carefully stepped back. Then he took another step back with the same risks, then another, and another, and a branch broke under his foot. His breath stopped and he listened. There was no sound. Huck turned as carefully as he could and then moved quickly. When he felt quite safe, he ran down the hill. Soon, he reached the Welshman's house. He banged at the door, and the heads of the old man and his two big sons appeared in the windows. "What's the noise there? Who's banging? What do you want?" "Let me in quickly, I'll tell everything." "Why, who are you?" "Huckleberry Finn, let me in." "Huckleberry Finn isn't a name to open many doors. But let him in, sons, and let's see what's the trouble." "Please don't ever tell I told you," were Huck's first words when he got in. "Please don't. I'd be killed, sure. But the widow's been a good friend to me, and I want to tell. I will tell if you'll promise you won't ever say it was me." "The boy knows something, or he wouldn't talk like this," said the old man. "Tell us what you know, and nobody here'll ever tell, son." 3 minutes later, the old man and his sons, armed with guns, were up the hill. Huck was not with them. He hid behind a great stone and began listening. There was a long silence, and then suddenly Huck heard the shots and a cry. Huck did not stay there. He ran away down the hill as fast as his legs could carry him. On Sunday morning, Huck came up the hill again and knocked at the old Welshman's door. In a moment he heard the old man's voice from a window. "Who's there?" Huck's scared voice answered, "Please let me in, it's only Huck Finn. It's a name that can open this door night or day, son. Welcome." These were strange words to the boy's ears. He liked them very much. The door was quickly opened, and he entered. The old man and his tall sons were already dressed. "Now, my boy, I hope you're hungry, because breakfast will be ready as soon as the sun's up. I and the boys hoped you'd come and stay here for the night." "I was scared," said Huck, "and I ran. I started running when I heard the shots, and I didn't stop for 3 miles. I've come now because I wanted to know about it, you know. And I've come before daylight because I don't want to see those devils, even if they are dead. You do look awful. It was a hard night for you, but you can sleep here after breakfast." "No, they are not dead, son. I'm sorry to say that. You see, we knew exactly where to get them, so we came very close to them. And just then I found I was going to sneeze. It was bad luck. I tried to keep it back, but no use. When the sneeze started, those scoundrels ran away from the house. I fired my gun. So did the boys. But they were already far away from the place. We tried to follow them through the woods. When we could not hear the sound of their feet, we went down and called the sheriff. As soon as it is light, the sheriff and his people are going to search the woods. My boys will be with them too. Could you describe these men for us, son? It would help a lot. But you couldn't see them in the darkness, could you?" "Oh yes, I saw them downtown and followed them." "Good. Describe them, my boy." "One's the old deaf and dumb Spaniard. I saw him here once or twice before. And the other is a man in rags." "That's enough, son. We know the men. We met them in the woods near the widow's house one day, and they ran away. Boys, go and tell the sheriff. You'll get your breakfast later." The Welshman's sons left at once. As they were leaving the room, Huck jumped and shouted, "Oh, please don't tell anybody it was me who told about them. Oh, please." "All right, if you say it, Huck." When the young men left, the old Welshman said, "They won't tell, and I won't. But why don't you want it known?" Huck did not explain. He only said that he already knew too much about one of those men, and he could be killed for what he knew. The old man said, What made you follow these men, son?" Huck thought for a few moments, and then he said, "Well, you see, last night I couldn't sleep, so I went for a walk about midnight. When I got to that old brick store by the hotel, I stopped to think. Well, just then I saw these two men. They passed me with something under their arm, and I thought they'd stolen it. They stopped right before me to smoke cigars, and I saw that big one was the deaf and dumb Spaniard with long white hair, and the other one was that devil in rags. Could you see the rags by the light of the cigars?" Huck thought for a moment. Then he said, "Well, I don't know, but somehow it seems I did." "Then they went on, and you?" "Yes, I followed them. That was it. I wanted to see what they were up to. I followed them to the Widow Douglas's house. I stood there in the darkness and heard the Spaniard swear he'd cut off her ear, just as I told you and your two—" "What? The deaf and dumb man said all that?" Huck saw his mistake. He was trying to tell the old man as little as possible about the Spaniard. The boy was afraid to get the man in trouble. But it was not easy. He made one mistake after another. Finally, the Welshman said, "My boy, don't be afraid of me. I won't hurt you. No, I'll protect you. This Spaniard is not deaf and dumb. You can't cover that up now. You know something about that Spaniard that you don't want to say. You can trust me. Tell me what it is and trust me. I won't betray you." Huck looked into the old man's honest eyes for a moment, and then whispered in his ear, "It isn't a Spaniard. It's Injun Joe." The Welshman almost jumped out of his chair. In a moment he said, "It's all clear now. When you talked about cutting of ears, I thought you had made it up, because white men don't take that sort of revenge. But Injun Joe, that's different." During breakfast, the talk went on, and the old man said that, before going to bed, he and his sons had got a lantern and examined the place where the robbers had waited. They saw no blood, but found a bag with what? Huck stopped breathing and looked at the old man, waiting for the answer. The Welshman was surprised to see Huck's face. "With robbers' tools. What's the matter with you?" Huck was glad to hear that. The Welshman looked at him and said, "Yes, robbers' tools. What were you expecting we'd found?" Huck had no time to think about a good answer, so he said, "Books, maybe." Poor Huck was too upset to smile, but the old man laughed loudly. Then he said, "Poor boy, you're pale and tired. You can sleep on this bed. Rest will do you good, I hope." Huck was glad that the bag was not the treasure. So the treasure must still be in number 2, he thought. Good. The sheriff would catch the robbers, and he and Tom could get the gold without any trouble. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Huck jumped for a hiding place because he did not want to be connected with the late event. When the Welshman opened the door, he saw several ladies and gentlemen, among them the Widow Douglas. He also noticed that the groups of people were climbing up the hill to see the place for themselves, so everyone knew what had happened. The Welshman had to tell the story of the night to the visitors. The widow thanked him for saving her life. The old man said, "Don't say a word about it, madam. There's another person that you should thank more than me and my boys, but he doesn't allow me to tell his name." Of course, the visitors wanted to know more about that person, but the Welshman refused to give Huck's name. More people came, and the old man told and retold the story for a couple of hours more.